Everyone, good evening. I think you can all hear me, yes? Okay. Yes, okay, thank you for inviting me to join the 8th day of your Novena to Our Lady of Fatima. I have the feeling that you left me the most difficult topic in your list. Secrets are always very sensitive matters, and more so when they come from heaven. Anyway, I'm really happy to bring you a reflection on the third part of the Secret of Fatima, whose content I believe you are all familiar with. But we will read it again here during our Novena, so as to refresh our memory. But first, let us put the secret in its historical context, although Barbara has already also done a little bit of that. When we speak of the so-called Secret of Fatima, we speak of a series of visions and prophecies divided in three parts that the Blessed Virgin Mary entrusted to the three little shepherds in the apparition of July 13th, 1917. And now you are asking yourselves, why have I chosen these three pictures to put here in this slide? Well, I'm sure you are familiar with these faces. This is Lucia. The first photo is a photo taken when Lucia was 10 years old at the time of the apparitions in 1917. That's when she received, together with Saint Francisco and Saint Jacinta on that apparition, the so-called secret, which is just one but divided in three parts, so 1917. Then the second photo was taken in Tui, when Lucia was already studying at the Dorothean convent, and where she wrote
recording in progress,
the first and second part of the secret. And then the third photo around the year 2000, when the third part of the secret was revealed. As you know, Sister Lucia is in a way also protagonist, and the fact that we are able today to address this topic is because Lucia was entrusted with the secret, and at some point, at the request of the bishop, she wrote the secret down, and today we have full access to it. The secret is fully revealed, and that is also important because we know that over the years and still at present times, there are people saying that maybe something is still hidden or has not been disclosed. But indeed, the third part of the Fatima secret was fully revealed in the year 2000. And so I proceed also by giving you a little bit of a timeline of the secret. I've mentioned that it was revealed and entrusted to the little shepherds on July 13th. And then the two first parts were revealed in 1941 in a document written by Sister Lucia at the request of the Bishop of Leiria. And just as a reminder, the first part refers to the terrifying vision of hell, and the second is about the devotion to the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the consecration of Russia to save souls and avoid war. Later, here you see a photo of the Bishop of Leiria at that time, Monsignor José. He was the one who requested Our Lady to write down the secret of Fatima. So it's also an important person in the context of the apparitions of Fatima, because he was also the bishop who declared the authenticity of the Fatima apparitions in 1930. Then later, in 1943, when Sister Lucia was asked by the bishop to reveal also the third part of the secret, she struggled for a short period, as she was not yet convinced that God had clearly authorized her to do so. But after much prayer, on January 3rd, 1944, Lucia wrote down this third part of the secret, sealed it and in an envelope and gave it to the bishop to have its custody. It was not meant to be revealed then. And then later, to ensure a better protection for the secret, the envelope was placed in the secret archives of the Vatican on April 1957. Since that time, an ongoing series of speculations were raised as to its content, to the extent that Sister Lucia used to say, and I find it quite interesting, she used to say, if people's curiosity for the third part of the secret was used to deepen and leave what is already known in the first and the second part of the secret, then everything would be different. In other words, rather than wasting, so to say, time on speculating, if we would just put in practice what is already known from the Mass of Fatima, and at that time, of course, the third part of the secret was not known yet, but if that had been put in practice, then we would certainly have a better world and would have focused on what is essential from Our Lady's words. And then the full text of the third part of the secret was officially revealed by Pope St. John Paul II in the year 2000. And it was accompanied by the theological commentary of Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, at the time prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. And this third prophetic vision details the assassination of the Holy Father and describes the terrible sufferings of the martyr and pilgrim church of the 20th century, and I would say also of our times. So, well, here you see just a photo of the original manuscript of Sister Lucia, as she wrote it down. For you to see, she had a beautiful handwriting, by the way. And here is the text, or part of the third part of the secret. But I'd like to read out here the secret, because I'm sure, although we have read it several times, being a symbolic vision with symbolic language, sometimes it's not easy to appropriate all its meaning. So we'll read it quickly, just for you to refresh your memory. The text says the following, as written by Sister Lucia. After the two parts which I have already explained, at the left of Our Lady and a little above, we saw an angel with a flaming sword in his left hand. Flashing, it gave out flames that looked as though they would set the world on fire, but they died out in contact with the splendor that Our Lady radiated towards him from her right hand. Pointing to the earth with his right hand, the angel cried out in a loud voice, "Penance, penance, penance." And we saw in an immense light that is God, something similar to how people appear in a mirror when they pass in front of it. A bishop dressed in white. We had the impression that it was the Holy Father. Other bishops, priests, men and women, religious, going up a steep mountain, at the top of which there was a big cross of rough-hewn trunks, as of a cork tree with the bark. Before reaching there, the Holy Father passed through a big city, half in ruins and half trembling with halting step. Afflicted with pain and sorrow, he prayed for the souls of the corpses he met on his way. Having reached the top of the mountain, on his knees at the foot of the big cross, he was killed by a group of soldiers who fired bullets and arrows at him. And in the same way, there died one after another the other bishops, priests, men and women religious, and various lay people of different ranks and positions. Beneath the two arms of the cross, there were two angels, each with a crystal aspersorium in his hand, in which they gathered up the blood of the martyrs, and with it sprinkled the souls that were making their way to God. So this is, although of a difficult language, the original third part of the secret as written down by Sister Lucia. And as I was saying, the secret, made up of 3 parts, must be understood as a whole, always in the light of the entire message of Fatima, that is, in the light of God's love that becomes mercy towards humanity. The text of the third part of the secret, as we have just heard, uses symbolic language and has a prophetic and apocalyptic dimension, describing the pilgrim church of the 20th century going up to Calvary. Although it refers mainly to past events, it also sheds light on the present and the future of our world and of the church. In fact, long before the secret was revealed to the public, Sister Lucia, in a letter she wrote to Pope St. John Paul II, dated May 12, 1982, just 1 year after his assassination attempt, she had already given an indication for interpreting the third part of the secret. And Sister Lucia wrote in that beautiful letter the following: "The third part of the secret refers to Our Lady's words when she said, 'If my requests are heeded,' meaning to accept the message of Fatima and its calls, my own words, 'Russia will be converted and there will be peace. If not, she will spread her errors throughout the world, etc., causing wars and persecutions of the church. The good will be martyred. The Holy Father will have much to suffer. Various nations will be annihilated.'" So this is already Sister Lucia giving the Holy Father a kind of a key to interpret the third part of the secret, because this is already from the second part of the Fatima secret. So the text of the secret is a symbolic and prophetic image of what would happen if Our Lady's requests are not fulfilled. And now, knowing the secret in full and the history of the world, it seems that we really didn't pay much attention to that, because Sister Lucia affirms in her letter, in that same letter to the Pope, "Since we did not heed this appeal of the message, we see that it has been fulfilled. Russia has invaded the world with her errors. If we do not reject the path of sin, hatred, revenge, injustice, violations of the rights of the human person, immorality and violence, etc., there will be not peace." So Fatima offers a path for salvation and for peace, but it is on us to make this a reality. Sometimes, and I hear that quite often, unfortunately, people tend to blame God for the status of the world, forgetting that the change has to come first of all from within us. So let us underline some aspects of the third part of the secret, not all. It would be impossible in such a short time that was given to me to explore the full meaning of the secret, but let's just underline a few aspects which I think are more meaningful for us today. And I'm also including here some insights from Cardinal Ratzinger, who wrote that beautiful theological commentary, and which is a document that should serve as a reference for all of us when we want to understand and to speak also on the third part of the secret. But in general terms, the third part of the secret gives us evidence of the following. First, we, the community of believers, have Mary, our Blessed Mother, always to intercede for us. Secondly, that this community, made of bishops, priests, religious, and laity of all social ranks, is our church, a church united and guided by the Holy Father towards the cross, symbol of our faith and salvation. The church we are lives and walks in this world, assuming the truth of history, helping to repair the wounds of the world and to save the city from its ruins by proclaiming God's hope and mercy. The identity of the church is, as we know, rooted in the cross, that is in the passion, death, and resurrection of Jesus. And the message of Fatima, as we also know that so well, translates this identity very well in its call for sacrifice, penance, self-offering of one's life in favor of others. And then thirdly, we also draw from the secret this idea that the figure of the Pope, the bishop dressed in white that appears in the vision, is a clear invitation for all of us to pray for the Holy Father, for his intentions. And praying for the Holy Father means, in other words, to pray for the whole Church. So, I'll get back to the presentation. Just to show you I'm sorry. Okay, just to show you also an illustration of this third part of the secrets. And what we see here, maybe you are familiar with this picture as well. We have in the vision the presence of an angel and of Our Lady. You can see it here on the left. The angel with a flaming sword is here to represent the thread of judgment that emerges over the world. It is the angel of justice. At the side, we have Our Lady, the splendor woman, representing God's mercy. And it is precisely the light of Our Lady that nullifies and vanishes the flames that come out from the angel's sword, who in turn calls loudly for penance, penance, penance. Well, this particular part of the vision tends to be the most distressing. It appears that God may strike us all down with a flaming sword. However, reading also the commentary of Cardinal Ratzinger, he makes the point that the flaming sword would be something that we ourselves create. And I would say maybe, nuclear weapons, maybe the effects of pollution leading to climate changes, meaning that it's not God, but it's our own acts, our own actions that can sometimes strike us all down, not so much the sword of God. But the good news is that the vision records that the flaming sword died out in contact with the splendor of Our Lady, in connection to the call of penance, penance, penance. The central message of Our Lady of Fatima was penance, as we know. Our Lady in her apparition in Fatima sought to remind the world of the need to turn away from evil and repair the damage done by our sins. Everything revolves around the need for repentance, for conversion. Our Lady's light, together with our penance, can block the power of the sword, especially the swords that we often have in our lives. Swords of envy, jealousy, lies, that we use quite often to attack people, to condemn, to destroy, to offend. We know that if we comply, the Blessed Mother has the final say, and their radiance can stop any sort of cataclysm or destruction, even at a more personal level of our lives, not just talking about the world's cataclysms. So we also have in the secret the description of the Church of Martyrs. Ratzinger made a symbolic interpretation of the various images shown in the vision: a steep mountain, a city in ruins, a big cross of rough-hewn trunks, and also the blood of martyrs. I would say that the steep mountain and the city in ruins represents the place of human history, with its difficulties and atrocities and even annihilation. But on the top of the mountain, there is the cross. And the cross, as we know, is a reference for us Christians during our pilgrimage on this earth. The cross transforms destruction into salvation. It stands as a sign of history's misery, but also as a promise of hope. And then we have the blood of martyrs, collected by the angels, which united with the blood of Christ's passion brings about salvation. The last part of the secret completes the other two, as it offers a prophetic reading of the dramatic history of the 20th century as the climbing to the Mount of Calvary, to the hells of history, people, the church, division. St. John Paul II, we used to say the Fatima Pope, identified himself with the bishop dressed in white that appears in the secret, who, on his knees, at the foot of the big cross, is shot and dies. Although the secret, this third part of the secret, shows the Pope being shot to death, the reality, as we know, is that the Holy Father, in this case John Paul II, in 1981 was shot indeed and injured, but he did not die. And what does it mean? Well, for us, this means that the world's destiny is not something fixed and unchangeable. It means that, as Ratzinger put it, faith and prayer are forces that can change the course of events in the world, and that in the end, prayer is more powerful than bullets, and faith more powerful than armies. It is true that the vision contains much suffering and peril, but in the eyes of faith and through faith, this is not in vain. The Church, as we know, has been suffering much and may have to suffer more in the coming years. And this should come not as a big surprise. The Church has undergone persecution ever since the crucifixion of Jesus. And our sufferings in the present time, I could identify them, but when we see the attacks on the Pope from different sides, even within the Church, when we speak about abuses, when we speak about so many other things which are kind of a direct attack or a persecution to the Church, they serve somehow as a purification to enable us to follow and proclaim the gospel of Jesus in a more authentic way. So there is always a purpose also for these persecutions and suffering that are described even in the vision of the third part of the secret. So, almost concluding, I would say that the last part of the secret is therefore a consoling vision, which seeks to open a history of blood and tears to the healing power of God and of Our Lady's Immaculate Heart. In other words, the third part of the Fatima secret gives us hope in the midst of a world torn by greed, lies, conquer of power at any costs, wars, as we just see one here in Europe at our door. The devil will not triumph. And despite suffering, if we cling tightly to Jesus and to the Blessed Virgin Mary, we will remain victorious. The moment of history we live in, from what we see around us, calls us back to the essential of the message of Fatima. And what is that? The change of heart and the new direction of humanity through prayer. Good will triumph as long as we convert our hearts. And this process of conversion is done through prayer, which is the journey that brings us closer to God and His will. So we are invited to bear witness of our faith and hope to those who walk with us on the roads of our life. May we be able to point always to the heart of Our Lady, refuge for her children. We are not alone. We have a mother, as Pope Francis said on his pilgrimage to the shrine of Our Lady of Fatima in 1917. We have a mother who looks after us. We have God who walks side by side with us. who is present and challenges us to perfection. One of the great lessons that God also gives us in Fatima, and particularly in the secret, is that we can help building a better world, a world of peace and justice, guided by Our Lady, who is our refuge and the path leading to God. In the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph. Yes, it will triumph. And is already, I would say, triumphing. Whenever each one of us open our hearts to God's will, accepting to fight evil and sin in our life and in the world. The triumph of the heart is called fidelity to God and to Our Lady. And as I come to an end, I thank you for your commitment to live this promise and to help us advancing this triumph of Our Lady's Immaculate Heart. And being here in Fatima, as we prepare to celebrate the Feast of Our Lady of Fatima, I also wish you a happy feast already in advance, and I assure you of my prayers from this blessed place, in the hope that I can soon meet you also here to pray at the feet of Our Lady. Thank you very much.